Tale of a Tale. Once there was or once there wasn't. There was once a fox. Like all foxes, he was very greedy and thought himself a very clever creature. More than anything else in the world, more than tender spring biddies from the hen house, more than juicy red raspberries in summertime, that fox loved to eat fish. Late one winter afternoon, he caught a whole basketful of trout. His nose twitched and his mouth watered as he tied the basket to his back and trotted home. The moment he set the basket on the table, he reached in and grabbed down a few luscious fish. Then he built himself a fire and set out the plate and fork, just the way his old mother had taught him. He had just sat down to enjoy his feast when cop, 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 there came a knock at the door. "Oh, blast," muttered the fox. "Go away, I'm busy," he called. "What an enticing odor, my friend," said a too familiar voice. A bear poked the tip of his big black nose in the door and sniffed. "Now, these are what I call fish. Give me some, won't you? I have an awful longing for fish." "Go away, I'm sleeping," said the fox. "What sort of welcome is that for your best friend?" wheedled the bear. "You are welcome to hang your hunger on a hat rack, friend. It took me hours to catch these fish. I didn't do all that work to fill your belly." But the bear hadn't seen even a fingerling since summer, and the fox's den smelled as though it was piled to the rafters with fish. He knocked again. Cop, cop, cop. "I beg you, friend, show me how you caught them," he pleaded. Then, thinking he was as clever as any fox, he added, "I have no idea how to catch a fish." "Imagine a bear who can't even catch a fish," grumbled the fox. He added a log to the fire, then grinned. "My very best friend, Sir Bear," he called. "You want to eat fish, do you? Then go directly to the lake. Go this very evening, when dusk has fallen, and the fish won't recognize you." The fox chuckled softly. "Hang your tail in the water, and don't twitch a muscle. When the sun smiles above the treetops, give your tail a good strong yank." The bear scratched his ear. "Why?" he asked. "Why? There never was anything better for a fishing pole than a bear's tail. You'll pull a whole barrel full of fish out of the lake, and without even getting your toes wet." Then the fox banked the fire even higher and sat down to enjoy his supper alone. The bear didn't want to leave all those aromatic fish behind. Still, he thanked the fox politely and trotted away toward the woods. He soon stood beside the lake, licking his lips and humming a fishing tune. "Perfect," he thought. "I'm just in time. The sun has fallen asleep and the moon is only a nail paring. The fish will never even know I'm here." He lumbered to the edge of the water and stuck his tail in as deep as it would go. Then he waited. That night, such a chill wind blew over the plain that the bear's tongue nearly froze to the roof of his mouth. His thick brown coat turned white with frost as he sat beside the lapping water. He waited, he shivered, the wind moaned, and the night dragged on. The lake became a frothy sheet of solid ice. The bear slapped his thighs and blew on his paws and waited for the fish to bite. At dawn, he could bear the aching cold no longer. Get it? Bear. "Friend Fox is very kind to teach me a new way to fish," he thought, "but I want to go home now." When the bear tried to step away from the lake, he howled in pain. His tail was trapped in the ice. He tugged and tugged, but it was stuck fast. Higher and higher rose the sun, harder and harder tugged the bear. "All right, fish," he cried at last, "you and I are leaving now." He gathered all his strength and gave a mighty heave. Ay, ay, ay! That poor bear! He tore the lake right out of its bed, but he saw not a single fish on his tail. All he saw was ice. That lake was heavier than 10 blacksmith's anvils. The bear's back felt as if it were broken, his tail as though it had been torn right off. He hopped on his left foot, then his right, and he roared. When he thought of the fox, surrounded by heaps of tasty fish, shining in the firelight, he roared even louder. He had a thing or two to say to that friend of his. The bear stomped away with the frozen lake in tow. The sun rose higher still, and the bear's icy fur began to thaw. The lake gleamed, shivering the light, and soon began to drip. With every step, the bear heard drip, drip, plop. But he did not look back. He just kept on hobbling toward the wicked fox's den. At last he reached the woods. Drip, drip, plop. The bear took 3 strides into the trees and felt an awful yank on his poor sore tail. The lake of ice would not fit between the trees. He tugged and pulled and struggled. Drip, drip, plop. Tug. "Just you wait, fox," roared the bear. "My very best friend indeed." He sat down in a puddle and thought dark thoughts. Drip, drip, plop. Drip, drip, plop. At last he turned his head. There behind him, on the very path he had followed, was a little stream, and gleaming and wriggling in the shallow water, the bear saw fish, dozens of lovely shimmering fish, hundreds of smelly, fresh, delicious fish, more fish than he could count. "Oh, fox, my very best friend indeed," he shouted. The bear leaped and spun. He slapped his tail against the trees, and the ice shattered into a million sparkling slivers. The bear's paw flashed out. 3 frozen mackerel were caught in his long curved claws. He popped them into his mouth and swallowed them in a single gulp. Nom nom. It took the bear 3 days to eat all those fish. When he had finished, he was so full and sleepy that he could barely walk. His belly dragged the ground as he waddled home, and his tail barely pained him at all. The bear was much too tired to stop anywhere along the way, but, polite as ever, he dropped a note in the mail before he fell into bed. "Dear Fox, the fish were delicious, but your method of fishing is very hard on the tail. Next time, why don't you try the new stream? See you in the spring, your very best friend, Bear."